I did like the when you show him his remaining days in prison, he seems to be in a Hawaiian shirt and a do-rag, which I thought was pretty cool. And if you're going to be in prison, why not wear what you want?
Who did I say that about?
It's in the book. There's a picture of Starkweather wearing a
oh right, the
shirt and a do-rag with the knot tied.
That's shirt. Not that. Yeah, that's his mom. That's his mom reading in the paper about her son's trial.
Okay.
And she's really sad. So she's.
That's great. Well, thank you for clarifying that for me. So, anyways, enough about that. We want to get into the topic of the show, which is you and your books.
Okay.
So I want to welcome you to Cities of Blood podcast. Thank you for attending tonight, taking time out of your vacation.
Thank you.
So I've got two of your books here. I've got one called Short Fuse, which I guess was your first book, and then I've got Death Valley 69. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about both of them because I read all of Short Fuse and most of Death Valley 69. I'm still on it.
Okay.
And I really like the illustrations.
Pretty wordy.
So, but it's got a lot of great details in there that even I wasn't aware of. And I'm considering myself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I consider myself.
I think it's just only maybe a book for people that really, really, really are interested in that stuff and not really very interesting for anybody else.
I thought it was fascinating. I had never heard the Steve McQueen story before.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bring that up yet because I want to get, deep dive into that stuff a little bit because it is really interesting. But I want to know how you picked your topic for your first book. Short. How do you pick out these two people for? Tell us who it's about. I'll shut up and let you do the talking. But tell us about this thrill kill couple from was it 50s?
I'm from between San Francisco and Seattle, back and forth, but I spent a couple of years living in the Midwest on just a strange adventure I went on in my 20s, and it was very, very foreign territory to me, and I was really feeling that the small town thing, or the thing of like you being the weirdo in the town, then you'll never be really an insider and stuff. And I just saw a copy of William Allen's book, Starkweather. And it's just from the cover. And I had never read any kind of true crime or anything. But just, from the cover, I just knew I had to learn about this guy. And I got super fascinated with Starkweather, probably feeling like a little bit, feeling that kind of alienation of place a little bit helped. But also just, it's a very in-depth book, William Allen's book is, and it had a lot of samples of Starkweather's writing, like his actual writing that he wrote down in prison. And I just thought it was fascinating because you could tell that he was this highly intelligent person that so what he was doing in prison was he was teaching himself to write with dictionaries. And so he would use words like as they caught his fancy, which were not in the correct ways, but they weren't incorrect. Like they were just very interesting and strange little pieces of poetry. It made me interested in him as so much more than just like a thug. Because he definitely had like a big creative streak. Also, some of the drawings that he did in prison were pretty amazing. Including he did he did an actual drawing of the figure of death that came to visit him at night after one of his first murders.
Is that the picture that's in your book, or is that your illustration in the book?
Yeah, that's that's my illustration incorporating trying to use his drawing, that type of just that weird, everybody said it was really tall and it had a head but no shoulders. I guess I just drew it, as I imagined it to be.
Trying to think of it, see if I have that one highlighted. I did like the when you show him his remaining days in prison, he seems to be in a Hawaiian shirt and a do-rag, which I thought was pretty cool. And if you're going to be in prison, why not wear what you want?
Who did I say that about?
It's in the book. There's a picture of Starkweather wearing a
the
Hawaiian shirt and a do-rag with the knot tied.
That's
shirt.
not that. Yeah, that's his mom. That's his mom reading in the paper about her son's trial.
Okay.
And she's really sad. So she's.
That's great. Well, thank you for clarifying that for me. That was really good.
Sorry, I like to leave those little mysteries in there sometimes. Who is that character?
I was curious.
Where the do-rag?
I was curious about the farmer. I might wear that for the next episode. I was
the farmer.
The farmer. It said in one page that he was friends with the farmer. Is that right?
Oh yeah. They used to go. He had been friends with that farmer. That farmer had taken kindly to him since he was in his early teens, and would take him out and let him shoot on his land. I think maybe even taught him to shoot, or let him use his guns. Yeah, that was his friend. He went over there and helped the old guy out with stuff.
And he killed him.
He did kill him, and that's why I'm wondering. In the book, it says that they had broken down and they had to walk a long distance to the farm, and by the time they got there, they were freezing cold, and then he just killed them. I mean, I guess there were no eyewitnesses, so maybe there aren't a lot of details about it, but it's just, I could see his rage towards her parents. That's understandable, and that happens in modern day cases that you hear about in the news to this day. I've heard a few times in the past couple of years of a young couple killing somebody's parents and then running away together. So,
totally.
Yeah, but the fact that the farmer was his friend, I just don't understand why he had to be a victim as well, or ended up a victim.
I have heard that. I've heard that sentiment before. It's everybody has the empathy up, and everybody's been through some kind of teen angst, wanting to kill your parents kind of thing or whatever. It's it's more relatable, but as soon as people find out about the farmer, then they're like, oh,
Well, it makes me.
Then there's that teenage couple too that he killed in the storm cellar, and that was pretty sensible too.
That's a good point. That was pretty brutal.
I find that brutal in a different way though, because it's not the friendship thing that makes it so ironic. It's what I see as the mirror images of themselves in these two kids. These are the other side of the mirror, Carol and Charlie. They did everything right. They're popular. They have clothes without holes in them. They probably don't have, step parents molesting them. Just, the seeing of yourself as you would have been if you were successful is what I think really promoted that kind of brutality.
That's I know in the book, Charlie, it's Charlie, right? He changed his story. First, he said that Caril had nothing to do with it, Caril Fugate. Then he apparently changed his story and said that she was just as bloodthirsty as he was. Mm-hmm. You must have done a lot of research for that book, and you were actually in Nebraska. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it? Was she the driving force that was, telling him to kill for me, or was he the one who was doing it and she was just along for the ride, or were they Bonnie and Clyde crossed with Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I'd say actually some combination of all those three things. Caril certainly wouldn't have ended up in that series of events with a different guy. It's not like that was her that was not her destiny. But she was most definitely along for the ride, and we can say that literally because there were more than one instances during their hiatus where she was left alone in a car in public or sent into a restaurant to pick up some to-go food sent in by herself that she did not indicate to anyone that, or even just try to run, even not mentioning it to a stranger, but just try to get away. She was very much along for the ride. She was along for the burgers and the fries and the ride and everything and the murders.
Did she keep communications up with him once he was when they were locked up?
No, she said, well, actually she did. She wrote to him one time and she asked him to, she wanted him to, when he testified, to not implicate her in, I think it was it was a legal thing. So it was like she specifically was asking to not implicate her, especially in this certain one, because if she got charged with that, it would be the difference between like an adult sentence and a juvenile sentence or something like that. Yeah. So she said the only time they communicated after that, or the only time she communicated to him, was with a legal request. And I think that he wrote to her a couple of times. But then, he didn't really like pine away. After a while, he was kind of like, she just, I don't know what I saw in that broad, kind of, he just moved on. But he was annoyed that he got death sentence and then that she didn't. And there's a very famous quote from him saying that she should, if I go to the electric chair, Caril should be sitting in my lap.
That'd be different.
Well, the other thing is the thing that reminds me fully stuck in camp Caril is guilty is that when she did finally make a breakaway, even after all those other times she could have, that it would have been way easier, she made a breakaway when she saw a highway patrolman, or she could have just been freaked out by how increasingly like random the killings were becoming. Charlie had just murdered a sleeping traveling salesman by the side of the road because he knew that he was being followed by the police and he wanted this guy's car. But, instead of like kidnapping him and taking the car, he just shot the guy like while he was asleep. I could see how that could push you over the edge if you were like thinking you maybe needed to get away with somebody and then you saw them do that and you'd be like, shit, this guy's psycho. When the when the sheriff was coming down the road, and it's like this long, straight Nebraska road you can see for like 5 miles. And so, Charlie's struggling to get the body of that other guy, the salesman, out of the car. And she just goes and runs straight towards the police car that's approaching. And she flags him down, and she hops in. And the first thing she said was, "He killed 10 people. I saw it all with my own eyes." That later became, that was the linchpin as far as her testimony, because she, as part of her plea later, she actually said that she went with him because she didn't know that he had killed her parents and her baby sister. She said that she didn't know, and that she was, in effect, protecting them by going with him and doing what he said. And that's why she wasn't complicit, that she was protecting her family. But for her to have seen him kill 10 people, those 3 people are part of that 10. So she really shot herself in the foot, so to speak.
Wow.
She claims not to have been in the home when her parents were murdered.
Yeah. I don't know.
Waiting outside.
I don't really see. He said that he was going over to ask her dad to go fishing because her dad hated him. Her dad was like, it was her stepdad, I should say. He claimed that they were supposed to go fishing together. That would have been odd because the dad wasn't particularly fond of him. But, I mean, just the idea itself of somebody, like your boyfriend, coming over to your parents' house when you're not there, like as teenagers.
Seems weird.
It's just, yeah, I think she was there. And I don't think she did any of it, but I think she definitely saw it, and she definitely hung out with him for 8 more days. And they ate all the chips and candy and soda pops that they could stuff their faces with, because she wasn't ever allowed to have any junk food because of her strict stepfather. And they just watched cartoons on TV and read comic books, and just, like the ultimate, the ultimate my parents are coming home late thing. But it goes on forever,
It's like they were.
But she was like 14 or something, wasn't she?
She was 14. Yeah, they met when she was 13.
What do you know when you're 14,
Yeah, and that might have been a better defense than trying to say that you were somewhere else.
The sister thing bugs me. I've got 3 younger brothers, and I was, since I'm the oldest, I practically raised the two that were 12 years younger than me. And I can't imagine hanging out with somebody for 8 days who killed my younger brother or sister. I mean, that one right there. I mean, even if you hated your parents, I mean, you hate your little sister too.
Here's the thing, though. That child was the child of her mother and her stepfather, who she hated. So
she was treated better then, most likely?
Yeah. She was totally spoiled. Yeah. I mean, she actually really did dislike that child quite a bit. She probably would have even resented it more if she was asked to be some kind of a caretaker or babysitter, in fact, because, she considered those people intruders. I think to her, her family was, her parents and her and her older brother, Bob, which was how she met Charlie, because her older brother Bob was friends with Charlie, and they went on a blind date together.
How much older was Charlie than her?
5 to 6 years. Yeah. I mean, when they met, I think, 5 years. Yeah.
So he was 19.
But he always said that she was like more sophisticated and more of a delinquent than he was. Like, kind of, he said like why he liked her was because she swore better than any of the other girls that he knew, and she smoked cigarettes, and she was very what's the word?
Growing up too fast.
You know, yeah,
14
yeah.
going on 40 kind of thing.
Precocious. She was precocious. She seemed more like a teenage girl when she was only 13.
They were together for I guess a year then. It was just a little over a year. So the whole thing.
Let's see. Yeah, I'd say like a year and a half. Yeah, the murder started in first week of November. Well, actually, there was one before that, but nobody knew about it yet. He did one murder that. Sorry.
It was December 57, January 58. He was 19. Oh, it was between January 21st and the 29th, 1958. That's when the spree happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so in October, he actually had murdered a gas station attendant that it's possible that Carol didn't even know about that. He didn't tell her, but that was kind of his practice run, to see if he could actually do it. That's creepy. Who is that?
I didn't know you could see, so that's what creeping around.
Dave's alter ego.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm the color commentator, so.
So Charlie was the last person sentenced or put to death for what, 50 years? Is that what the book says?
Yeah. And I think that they recently started it back up, if I'm not mistaken.
This is Nebraska?
Or oh, I know what it was.
The federal ones just started up.
Well, what?
The federal executions just started up again recently, but I wasn't sure about Nebraska.
Nebraska started again in 1994.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that when I lived there, when I was researching and drawing this story, it became the first time that it had been used in 50 years. They had somebody that they were going to. So that was kind of a famous thing too. In a lot of ways, doesn't feel like any of this set of crimes happened all really that long ago, because there's people in the town that like, they remember like being in grade school and getting sent home early because the National Guard was coming to look through Lincoln, searching for this, kid with a gun, this 19-year-old kid with a gun. It was a big deal. It was this big, scary thing.
How did that all happen? I mean, when does I've never heard of a city before, like calling in the National Guard for one person or a couple kind of thing. Is this unique? It's a drastic move. You're literally calling.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume that it's just always when there's a great danger to society. I mean, I could imagine that. I mean, there hadn't been really ever anything like this before. So
I'm just going by like the obvious.
There's not really a precedent.
Yeah, the obvious comparison in my mind would be Bonnie and Clyde. It was just maybe 20 years prior to these murders.
Right.
And or they called in the feds. They brought in the Hoover's G-men and some old Texas Rangers. To bring them down. However, they didn't call in the military. They gave the marshals any firearm they needed. So they could match the Tommy guns that Bonnie and Clyde had stolen, but they didn't bring troops out to these country roads and start searching farmhouses for them.
Well, that's one thing, is that Nebraska is so isolated in so many places that the police couldn't cover all that area. I think they had the National Guard in just to make people feel better, to see their presence around, because it really freaked people out.
I think
and I imagine the sheer terror of knowing that this had nothing to do with robbery made it so much more
the randomness of it.
terrifying. Yeah, just the randomness, strangers in different methods with no motive whatsoever. That's just a different animal than anybody ever thought that there would be, even though now it turns out to be like there's so many people like that.
I imagine gun sales in that area in Nebraska must have went through the roof for that 1 week, or at least ammo sales. I'm sure everybody probably already had guns back then.
I think everybody had guns.
Did you make any friends while you were in Nebraska?
I did. I made friends, but it was very difficult to get anybody to talk about the Starkweather story. Like people were, that's another way in which it can feel like this whole set of events happened more recently, is you really get a palpable sense of people still being angry about it and still hating him, and he's very persona non grata in Lincoln still. It's not like he's not like a folk hero by any means.
It's understandable that they probably want to talk about something negative about their town.
I guess. I don't know. I found it quite strange. Just that
even the young
it wasn't what I was expecting for a bunch of people, from a bunch of punk rockers that were starting record labels and getting tattoos and stuff, to be all like, oh no, I don't want to talk about that. That's not nice.
Oh wait, I thought you were talking about older people, like school teachers, or the guy who ran the laundromat.
Oh,
about it. You're talking about,
I don't know if I made friends with people like that, but I definitely met people like that. Somebody would say oh, my uncle bought a fender off of him. Oh, or my uncle, I remember specifically, my uncle used to cut his hair in our basement, and I wanted to talk to the uncle, and the uncle was just yeah, no. People are reticent about it. They don't want to talk about it.
The older generations, I've noticed, don't want to talk about anything negative, murders, those kind of things. However, the younger people normally do, because
yeah.
So
they're very. Maybe it's from just all growing, people all having grown up together since they were kids, but they're very I had friends. And a lot of friends, but I will tell you this, I never got deeper with anybody I made friends with in Lincoln than that. And to this day, since the day I moved away, since I moved back to Portland, I have not heard from anyone there.
Wow.
Until really recently. And I think it's probably because I work the library and I worked at the library with him, not because of so I know one person from living there 5 years. I know exactly one person. I never heard from any of those people again.
Did you ever get any negative flack from anybody in Nebraska for the book? Because it seems like, it seems like you were a little bit, harsh on them, but I mean, it's probably warranted. From my I've got other friends that went to high school in Nebraska and then moved out of here afterwards, and they've gone back to high school reunions, and they're like, you wouldn't believe it, it's 20 years behind in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And the people they went to school with, look like their parents did now, with the weird hairdos and still making fondue or some weird shit like that.
So you think I was too harsh on them, like in the afterword of the book?
I don't. It's if you were from there, if you grew up and born and raised, I think it'd be like, all right, well, she's speaking her piece about literally her hometown, and so you can't hold that against somebody. For somebody, especially coming from Portland, to going to the Midwest and then doing that, I could see how the Midwesterner could be like, those damn Antifa writing a book about our people here.
Right. And the thing is, that was exactly what they were like the whole time I was writing it, the whole time I was researching it, everything. And that's what I mean. Even like people I was going to the bars with would be like nobody wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So strange. At least not to me, the outsider. Yes, a person from Portland. So I didn't mean that to be mean, but I wrote that just like in a very, to me, it's very peculiar, I guess. It was just very
closed.
It was people that had a totally different cultural upbringing than I did. And yeah.
The all over the country. I'd never spent any time in the Midwest, so I can't really say I'm going by other people's stories. But I spent time in the South because my grandmother was from Augusta, Georgia, and so we used to summer down there, and they never let me forget that I was a Yankee every day that I was down there. Whether I, in their words, whether I was kin or not, I was a Yankee, and so. I know that what you're talking about with the closed kind of communities, and when they close ranks on you, they close ranks on you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, this is a great book, and I really dig I like your illustrations. You did all the artwork yourself?
I did. I wrote it and I published it the first time, and then it got picked up by a publisher for a second version of it, and I wrote all that as well, but I didn't do the picture layouts.
As far as using the pictures on the certain pages, or the way the actual book is laid out, is that what you mean?
It's when the one that the publisher did, it's a lot slicker, and so you'll have things where like, I don't know, like one of them I think is a picture of a car crash, and it's like the background is all broken glass. Computer graphics. Just those. I didn't do those kinds of things. Those were.
I like the way, just the way. I don't know whether I like the artwork, but I like the way the artwork is laid out too. I mean, so whoever did it, I dig it. I like the way it's almost a little bit like on certain pages. It seems like it's laid out almost like a comic book, or maybe not a comic book, but one of those activity books that I used to get as a kid, kind of thing. With the.
I totally thought of it as like a picture book for grown-ups. I was really influenced by in the older books. Like say for instance, like Nancy Drew books, there are not a lot, but there are illustrations throughout them, just very rarely. And I always loved how they'll have an illustration from the story and then just like a line from the story, or better yet, a quote from the person that the picture is of, that is so incongruous because you haven't read the story yet. So it's like, somebody running away and looking backwards and saying, the snakes are almost upon us, or, that kind of thing. Like, I really love that. And I tried to incorporate that kind of.
Yeah, now you're back.
Okay, weird.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very windy here in Bend. So I wonder if anything like that happens. I think it could be because of that. Yeah.
So
I don't know if that was my fault or not, but I'll apologize in case it was.
Well,
oh,
no
it's
worries.
okay.
Thanks for.
So we're going to do a two-part episode for you on this one too. So you'll be on twice.
Cool.